Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me about your grand design that you're executing down home. I'm so grateful for you making this time. I know that you have a million other things to be doing in this moment, but I really thought that by chatting together today, we could give the listeners and the readers of the appeal a little bit more context to what it is that you're accomplishing back home in Jamaica. So, if you would just introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about Solidarity Yaad.
Okay. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Always important to start with the elementals, the ancestors, because I am not doing anything, I am being. I I feel a walking tree. Sashe kute wa banuke pra afu adarkwa fatmuta ajubate ialua bufun me, and the drum protects me. Mother drum protects me, and I am a wild Amazon, uh, queer trans. They call it woman, and but I feel very much a part of the forest, a part of nature, and I am a walking tree. I love trees. I love nature. Nature is, I am just full in it, full in it. Uh, and I've been always this way, and more and more I've developed my connection and reconnection with the mama, the more uh, the more free I got. And the more I got free, the more I felt in solidarity with everything that's present on in a natural sense of our liberty, the overall environments that we're in, and people and plants. And so as I'm sitting here looking out at this mountain, I feel very honored to be here with you and to be on this journey, this beginning journey, because it is a beginning journey, but it's also a continuation because I, like you, am repatriating home. And Jamaica, I feel, is really a diasporic space. And so right now, sitting here, I'm honoring our Taino ancestors, our Maroon ancestors, our African ancestors, our Asian ancestors, Chinese, Indian, Southeast Asian, and just our ancestors from the Celtic um, lines, and all of the peoples who actually um, brought their gifts and their talents to this space to labor on this land and to create sustenance, so that we're here today saying we want to go home, and there's a home to go to. So that's how I enter space. What I felt coming home was the mamas, and I see everything as the mama pretty much. It's we're all part of the mother, the mothers. So the draw home was the mama saying, "Go home and plant your yam," and I did. I came home, and there was yam growing in the back of mommy's house right here, and I went there and I dug a 60-pound yam out of the backyard. Me and her, mostly me. 60 pounds. I couldn't lift it alone. It was like a vortex. And that's That's what we're growing here. You know, we're growing into recognizing that nature holds us. You know, this concern of our climate. You know, when Beryl, I know most people won't see this as like, what do you mean you weren't scared? I didn't feel afraid of Beryl coming because I understand what's happening. I understand what needs to happen for us to wake up. And so these extreme climate devastations are really part of our humanity's call to wake up. And I am not saying, and are not saying, oh, you know, condoning the different things that have happened to us, but that we have been not really honoring the planet that gives us everything. And so the planet is responding in like. So as the breeze,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, I feel exactly the same way. Everything for you, ditto for me, except for the yam.
Well, you soon have your time, man. You wait.
But Beryl definitely, for me, amplified this intense draw that I feel to go home because I do think that Jamaica and the Caribbean and a lot of Latin America are being positioned and have been for a really long time post colonization, during colonization, kind of been framed and positioned as sacrifice zones. So here in the US, folks can kind of live completely separated from nature, completely devoid of that, ancestral wisdom of how we're merely stewards of the land. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I thought about during Beryl was I have an aunt that lives in Cayman, and I had recently been to Cayman, and my friends were asking me how's family, but I have this aunt that rescues kittens, and she was so nervous what were going to happen to these kittens that they just live in the yard and come and she feeds them. And the vet told her, they know how to find safety, they know where to go, and that's exactly what happened. And I feel that way about us, that
Absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
know where to go
Absolutely.
find safety.
We do. We
And
do.
home is
And
that for us.
it's true, we do. And over the last, I've been rematriating, I've been returning home since 2014. I got a dream with my grandmother and my mother, and they were like, come home now. And I literally, weeks later, booked the ticket. I came home and I sat with them for a week because I realized that, wait a minute, time is moving. And if I don't go home now and sit with these elders, I'm going to miss something really important. And I sat with them for a week. And that was the last time I sat with my grandmother because months later she was gone. 5 months later, she was no longer here. So many of us who are thinking about, oh my God, Jamaica is not safe and you can't come home here, son, you can't do this and you can't do that. Hey, I was terrified to come home because I already knew that I was a target for a lot of reasons. Look at me, and look at me and also see me, feel me. I'm intense. And so women like us are targets for all kinds of things. And being
Absolutely.
queer and trans and having the nuanced identities that I walk with would make me a target.
Absolutely.
But I had to also crush that and say, wait, am I putting myself to become a target by feeling that
Right.
I'm terrified to be the target? I'm like, you know
Absolutely.
what? I'm going to heal the toxic masculinity homophobia that lives inside of me so that when I go home, I can recognize it and I can be with men who represent the men who can honor women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think often, and during the COVID lockdown, I would say that I thought a lot about nanny.
Yeah,
And I know that's so random, but
it's
at the
not
same
random.
time, I thought a lot about how,
Me too.
in Jamaica, there's space for a woman to be recognized as a national treasure. And I don't think that she can be boxed it. I mean, I kind of see her as a queer icon.
She was. She
And so
is.
for me, it's just this concept of, yes, the homophobia and the gender-based violence are realities. They're
Yeah.
byproducts of
Mhm.
colonization. They're byproducts of a lot of the history of all the peoples that have come together to form our culture. And I was just curious, now that you've been going home consistently and now that you're there, is that a little bit of what informed the vision, the envisioning of Solidarity Yard in terms of the safety for
Yes.
queer folks who are so oppressed?
The main thread for us is to foster learning spaces for our women and queer folks and gender expansive, non-binary folks to really find themselves using regenerative somatic tools and also developing spaces that are creating and curating spaces that are spaces where I brave spaces, spaces that they're protected, spaces where we can say this is a space you can come and be yourself. And what does that look like? Be yourself. It could look like anything because we get to define it. A lot of the times, so before I got this farm space, the 12-acre farm that we're on now, I would take people into the bush in Nature Blue Hole up in St. Anne, and I had a guide that would work with me, a bush doctor, who we connected and worked together. And I was like, we found a path that was private, and that's where I brought people to get in touch, and that really meant taking all of the layers off. And every time I brought myself up there, it's for me. I when I was 30, I left the mainstream and decided that I was not going to work anymore. I was going to live and I was going to practice. So the practice of coming home was about cleansing all of that baggage that I was carrying from the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, the absolute craziness that I've experienced um, being on in the US, and then returning home and also having to recapitulate with all of the layers of gender-based violence that's here that I wasn't experiencing because I had developed women's spaces. I created and curated and organized through movements women's spaces, positive spaces, body positive spaces where people could be themselves. So I had a lot of free range, and I would travel the world inside of these spaces. So that took 30 some years to develop, right? So here I am dropped back home now, and it's like, what? So when I first got here, my bump head with every man will say something to me. Me and them bump head because I say, well, what you talk about? I mean, you talk to? No, I know you're not talking to me about that. And if somebody talked about the Batman them and the Sodomite them, I would just be like, it's who you talk about. I wouldn't come out, but I would come right at them. Because I know
Really?
you gotta know where you live, right? So,
How did you calibrate like that you could do that with this person and it not result in some kind of backlash to
oh,
you
I didn't
personally?
know. Because I was, I was, because I had a way of doing it that worked, which is,
Okay.
did you You're talking about, is who you're talking about? The sodomite? But wait. But you're talking about God right now. What you're talking about sodomite for? But me not understand. God love everybody, you know. God never say, me no love this and me no love that. So no man, make we think about that. And I would have conversations with people who I, had conversations with. And and
Right.
and and it wouldn't all turn out well. I had street fights, and I was targeted, and me and my partner was targeted. One man kept called her across the street. This was years ago, and I called out. I said, "If you want to talk to her, come over this side of the street." And of course, he launched into sodomite, blah blah blah. What's it? Not it. And then he launched into my face one day and he said, "I will kill you." And I said, "Please do try to kill me face to face." Face to face. I could feel his air on my face. He was that close. I could smell what he ate for breakfast that day. So and then he created a whole thing in the community. This was in Portland. I lived in Portland.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
it exists. It's strong. So I was like, you know what? It got very unsafe because nobody would stand up for us. I was the only one standing up for
Hmm.
us. And
Wow.
and so it was traumatizing. It was extremely traumatizing. I had to go through a lot of processes there and really check in with, am I going to run away from this? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to run away from this. I've got to be able to find a way to live in my home.
Wow.
So, and I was looking for property there. I was almost going to buy property right in that little district. And I was like, you know what? This is not a safe place for me to do that. So let me go look somewhere else. So I'm going to go home and came home and developed the farm here at mommy's house. COVID was just starting when I left Portland. And so I spent COVID farming and being at the sea because I moved to Aracabessa,
Okay.
right at the seaside. Again, I love the seaside. I'm always at the seaside. If I'm not in the bush, I'm at the sea. So that's how and so I had already started. 2014 was when we launched Raise Your Voice Jamaica. That was the first iteration of what we're doing here. And my goal was, and what we did was we had a first impact uh, activation where we invited folks from all over the island to come, and we invited Eve Ensler and her partners to come, and also other people in Jamaica. We invited. Where were we? We were at the
For those who don't know who Eve Ensler is, I believe they go by V
V
now.
now. Yes, they go by V now.
And they are famous for the vagina monologues.
And
That could be a place that of a point of entry for folks who are
thank
less
you.
familiar with the name. But
Yes.
sorry, I didn't want to cut you.
No,
Just
no,
want to
no,
make
no,
sure
it's good.
everyone's in the
Thank you.
conversation.
Yes, yes. And so also the Institute of Jamaica hosted us to have this program, and my goal was I invited the Gaman of Jamaica, who is a Maroon Paramount Queen, Mama G Gloria Sims, the current Taino chief, Kaiman was also there, and uh, many of the movement leaders who were already doing movement work in Jamaica, but they weren't looking at the emotions, they weren't looking at survivors telling their stories in public in the way that I was doing it. So what I ended up
Wow.
doing was I said, we don't want you to talk at people all day long. What we want to do is spend the 3 hours that we're going to have together is have drumming, dancing, which was activated everybody. Some folks were not used to, first of all, women drumming. That was like, what? That was just unheard of. So people were the women who were there were like, I don't want to dance because we're not used to this. And then we had eye to eye. So I have people look into each other's eyes, and I had some questions that were coming, and people started to process and cry and laugh and different emotions. And from that, then we had an open mic, and I swear, everybody in the room got up and shared what it was like for them to live in their bodies, to live with, being a survivor. And so that drum started a very different way in Jamaica to look at, to feel about, to be with ourselves as survivors, and to sharing our stories in this particular way. So a lot of different programs got launched off of that program around the island,
Wow.
stewarded by women, because we allowed people to speak, not just the talking heads. And then we ended with a rip roaring drum jam. And my alma mater was Holy Childhood High School. So when I came back home, I I I went to the principal and asked her if we could have some of the girls. I trained them in drumming and some of the songs that we were going to do for months. And then I trained the drum ensemble to, for future later on, to win the first drum, what do you call it, medal for the performance arts, right as COVID was coming in. So we included the girls. The point I'm making is we included the girls to be there, to be in the music, to learn. We're talking about 20 girls. We're not talking about just a few. So their lives were impacted that day. We had babies in the audience. We had men in the audience. We had everybody was represented across the board in the audience, about 250 people. And that really shifted how we started to move. And so Solidarity Yaad wasn't really um, the that's the birth of Solidarity Yaad, basically.
Wow.
And then,
Wow.
I just kept saying we've got to have a land-based place, because queer people and women in Jamaica, we are the minority landowners, land stewards,
Absolutely.
and we are the ones that are doing the farming, and we're the ones that are building this amazing space. So why don't we, how about we find land and make this step, and which I'd been dreaming into for, you know 30 some years.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot more to the
Ye-
story, but
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so beautiful. The origin story or the origins
yeah,
story. It made me think while you were speaking about all the organizing, the community organizing I've done throughout the years. You meet people who have these strongly held convictions until you really open space for people to share and bear witness to each other's sharing, and you realize how much of that is just a shield to protect them. These
yeah,
strongly held convictions, they're really loosely held
definitely,
convictions, and that's why they can come with so much violence,
yes,
because that's just, a mask that folks are wearing to hide a lot of the traumas and violence. And just, I mean,
grief,
I think it's violent to live in Jamaica and be in generational poverty in a place that's so abundant and so community oriented, but just because of the powers, the political forces, the greed, the corporate
and
environment
the
that we're all
religion,
grappling with.
the
And, and
fundamental
the
religion.
religious aspect, absolutely. But even that, I think that, when you peel back the layers, and it has to be done, it really has to be done in space. And the land is such a critical component to the healing as well, which you've
Yes,
already named. I think that the land is the place where we can heal. So the very first truly, like, spiritual, and I grew up going to Seventh-day Adventist church every single week, like, I grew up in the church, like, every day of the week, basically, but the first time that I truly cried and, like, felt like I was communing with the creator was in the forest. Like, there's just
Absolutely.
something about being with the trees, your feet on the ground, that
Mhm.
is so healing, that it's just amazing that it's only so recently that this kind of a vision could start to be realized. And so I want you to just share a little bit more about what has the impact of Beryl been? If you could share a little bit about from the visioning to what you've been able to build so far, what has the impact of Beryl been on where Solidarity Yacht is today?
Well, the impact of Beryl is in the scheme of things, because in the scheme of the intensity that I am seeing on the ground for people who really everything got lost and devastated. So I want to really not say that in the scheme of things we are not the worst hit, and we basically have the farm did not have any structures on it until January. We built three structures. When I say structures, I'm talking about a kitsch, and I call it a kitsch because it's still in it's still unfolding. Um, and we built two bathrooms that, and I say built, I mean they're built with block and some cement and board and zinc roofing. That's pretty much it. Most of the wood we sourced on the farm, and most of the rock, that bedrock of the spaces, we sourced from the farm to make the foundation of these buildings. So one of the and we everything is multi-purpose, multi-use. So the bathroom also doubles is we're in progress because we weren't finished anything. None of the buildings were finished. So we had a boneyard, which what we call a boneyard, thanks to my dear beloved Pamela. Um, a boneyard is where we put all of our tools, our supplies, our materials, all of the things organized in different categories, so that when we need something, we can just go and grab it and do what we need to do. All of that was happening, and that was under three tents, three 10 by 10 tents. So it's a 30 foot by 10 foot space, and all of that's down. I still am. We're still assessing what is under there that's usable. We just went there in about 2 days ago for the first time to really see, and so that means that we have a program for a soil fertility program that we're running monthly. It's supposed to be at the end of this month, and the classroom, we had a 20 by 40 tent that was right outside of the kitchen, as well as three living tents for us. When we're there, we can sleep, all of our things are there. So because I basically was set up living there, so all of that stuff got damaged. All the tents are, we need to you know compost, do something different with them, and lots of water damage. We had some tree damage. A lot of the banana trees that were not canopied by other large trees, they came down, and there's then some sliding happening in different places. We have some big trees down on our pathway, and so we need to rebuild that bathroom that got downed, bathroom slash storage, and we'll have to get working on the kitchen so that it can be storage. It's already storage and kitchen, but it now needs to be immediately, because we're expecting more right now. We're expecting more rain, so in the short term we will need to get things out of the the tarps, out from under the tarps. What I've learned living on the land for 2 years is when you live in a forest, a tropical forest, moist forest, like what we call here, um, mold is like
Oh
it
my
runs
goodness.
faster than anything you could ever imagine, and then
Right,
the critters are just like exceptionally happy when you leave anything out. So we have a lot of those things to concern ourselves on. Is are the beings that cohabitate with us, who are gonna hatch their eggs and do all their things, and
right,
mold and rust. A lot of our
right.
tools, and so the worms were saved by the tarp dropping on them and the water filling into the tarp. Otherwise, all of our worms would have been gone. And Yeah, so we have lots of cleanup, and we also have some infrastructural, foundational work to do where the kitchen tarp, we're basically our classroom, dining room,
Mm,
fireplace area where we sit in cozy space is gone. So
mm.
we really we yeah need to have that recouped right now. Um, and so that's going to take us, we don't know how long, because that it depends on funding and it depends on the labor. And so we're visioning what's the most immediate thing right now that we need. And the most
Right,
immediate thing we need is funds, basically, so that we
right.
can, um, we don't have a transport. The vehicle that I had that was mommy's died when she left. And so yeah, so I've been on, um, you know, working with people who help me get to places. And so we need a transportation that we can have to get us where we need to go and be back and forth. And also, some of our team members were impacted both post, during, and post Beryl being out there, because we were out there in the rain pre Beryl. It was raining
Right.
and windy, getting things done, and so some people got sick, and so we're dealing with the aftermath of that, as well as other team members have also not able to go home because of damages, water damages, and outage. Folks don't have um, any electricity, and we're lucky today to have actually be able to be on Zoom, because I wasn't able to do much internet until a couple days ago. Um, but again, I'm just really grateful for the life, um, that I'm sitting here talking, and we're all here. Many people, Beryl turned as it was about to hit
Yes.
Jamaica. It was like, not today, but some people did get hit. So I feel one of the things that we are talking about in our community, we do a course here called, and in Solidarity, called Emotional Sovereignty Wellbeing. It's a series that we're running, and we have folks who, we're wanting to reach in to those people, and we have to have capacity, put your
Right.
mask on first, to be able to reach into that community and to those communities, the communities that we serve, to say we can support you, but we have to be able to get back on track before we can say that. And so that's something
Absolutely.
that's on our minds right now, is we want to know how people are and be able to support our communities. And that's I think the most disheartening part for me personally, and
Right.
emotionally, is I want to be able to say, oh no, come over here, some man, we have it all set up. And so, point to that is the house next door, adjacent to us, our line, the next door house, and land, is we are in process to acquire that, and it's now more clear, just so much more clear, that had we had that space, all of our things would have been, and we would be also taking people in.
Right. And thank you so much for really painting that picture. There are so many folks that are going to watch this that have never been to Jamaica. They don't really understand, the climate and how quickly uh, the conditions for illness, the conditions for physical degradation of infrastructure can take place when you're living in a rainforest, basically. But as
Basically.
you were speaking, I was thinking about how there's such an urgent, pressing need for funds, not just to replace things that have been lost, but really to prepare, because this
Right.
is going to be a very, very active hurricane season. And, praises be that you are kind of couching what you've lost as relatively resolvable in the immediate future,
Mm-hmm.
but there's truly a bigger,
Yeah.
longer term
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
for infrastructure and funding to really put you in the position to truly realize the vision. And so you started to talk about it a little bit, but as we kind of wrap up, I would like for you just to share what is the longer term vision? So, as those funds come in to rebuild post Beryl, as those funds come in to help you acquire that house next door, so that you not only have storage, but you have places where people in the community can come in the case of emergency, post emergencies, and be safe, be truly the safe place that has been cultivated thus far. What does that vision look like for you?
Thank you for putting that out there. Well, the big vision, the long term vision, is really to transition to appropriate technologies that will allow us to be able to mitigate and adapt to what this climate, environmental um, crises and situations. Sometimes I don't like to use the word crisis because it does something inside of me. I'm very sensitive to how I sound power, to how I use words. But the devastations that are coming through are not, it again, it's a response to how we have been disconnecting with nature. And one of our main strategies is how do we reconnect with our environment in a way that is regenerative, restorative, and that is about rethinking how we connect and connect with nature, connect with ourselves, connect with each other. How do we build solidarity in a space? And that will, the space, the house itself being a structure that's already literally, what they call it, turnkey. Open the
Mhm.
door and we are in a space um, to continue versus
Mm.
getting funds to build a place.
Right,
It costs
right.
us so much money to build that tiny 18 by 12 kitchen you would not imagine.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it took us
Right.
months and it's still not done and we still couldn't put all the things them in the little kitchen. You see what I mean?
Right.
And we can't sleep in the kitchen, you know? So, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like that, you know? So,
Right.
so
And
this house is 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and it has multiple, structures that have already been
right.
built,
Yes.
a rainwater catchment system that's fully in place. We have we have DC solar on our property, which is direct current, off-grid solar, and we have a water pump that pumps that water that is from the spring, 1,200 feet um, down by where the river is, and it pumps to a 200 elevation to the top of our property. When we have water accessible, we want to share this water with our neighbors. Most of the people in the community do not have running water, and we're in a water rich environment. Clean,
Right.
pristine water. People are not able to have access to. We don't want to sell the water. We don't want to bottle
Right.
the water. We just want to share it with the community,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. And 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 in closing, I know this is a conversation that I've had with many folks for many years about what it looks like to have safe places for LGBTQIA gender expansive people in this moment where the folks that are already the most oppressed and
Yes.
disadvantaged and who
Yes.
have been divested of for so many years are now being put in positions of not just all of the other safety issues, but now it's being compounded by the reality of climate change. And so, what will that mean when you have this beautiful home and all the technology and just everything that is growing on the land and everything being produced on the land being such a rich resource to the community? What will that mean for, liberation for queer peoples?
Well, it will mean that we are basically putting, because we are, as a learning hub, what we're firmly anchoring is that folks who have experienced gender-based violence and folks who are on these margins of discrimination and health, mental health challenges, sexual abuse, physical abuse, all of those things, that we are able to provide um, education through the programs that we have, the emotional sovereignty programs, where people can come and be in a space, be in a refuge space where we can be ourselves, as we say, reverberate our own in our own climate, create our own climate of safety and protection, and also from here really launch more spaces that are more safe spaces, because this is again, I always see things, in spirals. So we may be here on the spiral, but our space will generate people to come to have the vision of, you know what, I can think more clearly because I came here and I learned some tools. I now know that I can go and do some composting. I now know that this is a way I can clean my water with moringa. I now know that I can use these herbs. I now know that I can, I can build different ways of knowing who I am through through not just the structure, but having that space where our organization itself is anchored. If we are not anchored, we're gonna be wibbly wobbly. So creating a foundation that becomes a model for how we do, care, and how we create equitable reciprocity, and um, continuing to, I just see it like the onion, just blossoming, continuing to create more layers out so that people can have the access, not just looking for the access outside, but actually resourcing from the inside. That's what we're
Yes.
working with individuals and communities to, is to resource from the inside and then take those lessons. For instance, the soil fertility and our permaculture incubator, people can learn things, but not learn it just from a heteronormative perspective, but learn it from a queer ecologically and polycultural perspective, where we're looking at, from a feminist perspective, looking at all the sides of things and then replicating it, carrying it forward,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
bringing what they learn to their communities, and then testing the soil again and seeing, can you imagine a farmer testing their soil, going, this is the soil and it needs A, B, C, D. And then we do these regenerative practices, we do composting, we do mulching, we do some hugelkultur, and we start doing contouring, and you test the soil again and it's like, oh, and then you go, oh, so I don't need to use those chemicals? Oh, people need to see and live the thing.
Yes,
When
absolutely.
when I bring women and queer people on the farm, one of the first things I do is take them to the guango tree and we offer to the ancestors and the beings of the land. And we know if, because the land is what's holding us, the land is
Yes.
speaking to us, the land is
Yes.
called us generations ago to come, hey, the land is saying we need reparations now, and that's why we're here. So that's how I
Absolutely.
see it. It's a both and the reparations for us, but also we carry forward those things to the for the future. And so it's not an easy road. We're not saying it's easy. We're saying it's gonna require a lot of responsibility, a lot of flexibility, and a lot of intentional dreaming. And I don't
Yes.
believe in work. I believe in dreaming it forward. And that is what we're cultivating with folks here, and with all of our communities. That solidarity is really about not just with me and you, we cool. It's with everything, all the
Absolutely.
parts. There's so much more to share here, and I'm just so grateful that you even wanted to give us this airtime. And I'm so excited that you're moving home. And I'm telling you, listen, don't hesitate for knock on my door, because it's real. And the things that we're looking to put in place on this next iteration of the farm at the house, I feel like I can't go to the farm right now and stay there because I've no place to be. I don't mind staying under the mango tree for a little while, but it's we need that foundation. And I think that that's
Absolutely.
what our women and queer folks need, is a foundation
Absolutely.
where not everybody's gonna come and be like me and sleep outside under the mango tree. Some people just need to come and sleep and look upon the mango tree through the window and then ease into it. We need to have layers of where people can
Yes.
ease into their reconnection with nature and ease into how to be with themselves in nature. Just Sunday we were there and something happened, and it was like we just said it is release time. And I just encourage one of our people, if you need to release, don't take it back to Kingston, because this land can
Mm.
hold it. And so that's what
Mm.
we're encouraging. The land can hold the grief, the land can hold the tears, the land can hold so much that we can't. And so
Yes. Yes.
I'm
And
glad.
your vision, oh, I want to live there. Live in the world where your vision becomes the default. We have to make the
Yes,
things that seem
Ashe,
hard
Ashe.
just our default for how we interconnect, interrelate. And
Exactly.
what you're describing is a sovereignty that is,
Yes.
I'm so sovereign over my own emotional state, my own healing journey, my own humanity, that I can truly see yours, and the richness of yours blesses the richness of mine. And through that, we can truly eliminate the extractive scarcity. That's what's really driven us into this place where people have to be put in boxes so they can be taken off the shelf and dealt with by capitalism. But what you're
Well said.
describing is a fluid space where we can all be sovereign over the food we eat, the physical structures that protect us from the elements, and in our heart relationships with one another, because that's really, to me, what takes us
Yes.
back into the tradition
Yes.
of the ancestors,
Yes.
like Nanny, who said, yeah, no, this slavery
The slavery
I'm gonna
thing is
pass, but that's cool. You do you. And I love that for us. I love that we can be agents of our own reparations for the future. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Thank you for trying to drum. I really to be
well,
included. So
I know I can drum on my, can you hear that?
Not quite,
But you can hear my voice, so I can sing
but
for
I
you.
can hear your voice. It's so
Oh, that's
random.
good.
So what
I'm
I'll
gonna.
probably I'll just unfortunately because I'm going home, I get to come and see.
Well, and I also, if
Um,
you want to add to this, but I have a CD that is online. So if you want to play my music, you can do that too.
God, thank you
You
so
can put it. You
much.
can put it somewhere in here.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. But the biggest takeaway, you've shared so many gems, but the biggest takeaway I want folks to hear is please donate. Please, please, please donate because we are really cultivating a community of donors that are aligned and in line with the vision that has been shared with us today. It's really not a traditional appeal in the sense of, you know, this is a one and done, right? Like
Yeah.
this is an invitation to be a part of a community that appreciates the reality that Jamaica has been put on the chopping block as a sacrifice zone where the powers that be, the political powers, the European powers can decide which payments, which interest rates, all of those things and make an already vulnerable people so much more vulnerable to the climate change that's upon us. And so as as Solidarity Yaad builds out this vision, really want to just invite you all to think about everyone that you can share this with, everyone that you
Okay.
can share the message with. Take something. I know you've gained something from this sharing. If you've received something, please pour that into what is being cultivated because it's truly the way that we can all be in real solidarity. So, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful for you.
I'm just blessed, blessed, blessed love, and for all of us, walk good. Them say, walk good.
Well, good. Okay,
Yeah.
take care.
All right.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. One love. Blessed love.
I am alive. I am alive. I am beautiful. I am beautiful. I am creative. I am creative. I can do anything I put my love and heart into. I can do anything I put my love and heart into.